Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us again on the Inspire Health podcast. And I want to do a quick shout out to all of our new listeners on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. We're super excited to be collaborating with them, and we hope that all of you get to enjoy all of the different episodes that we bring to you every week. So if you're new to this channel, then go and check out at the inspirehealthpodcast.com. And you can check out all of the different episodes that we've done. We've had about 200 now, just about. This is episode 198. One thing that's unique about our channel is that we often run series. So we will take a topic and then we will get a bunch of different experts and visionaries and game changers in that field, and then we round it out. And it's often very diverse. Everything kind of ties back to health in a lot of different ways, but what we need to understand is that health is not just physical. Health is multidimensional, and we are multidimensional beings. So we need to look at health from a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and metaphysical perspective in order to really understand what's going on and to operate in this life from a way that's going to ultimately be in our highest good. So check out the different series. We've got a whole bunch of different ones if you're not aware of them. We've done series on detox from a multidimensional perspective. We've looked at energy frequency, vibration, magnetics, the next era of healthcare. We've done know thyself. We've looked at children's health. We've looked at mind body medicine. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. So if you go to the website, you can check on series and you'll see all the different ones that we've done. A lot of really awesome information, I think, out there. We did one called Science, Mysticism, and Beyond, Exploring Our Greater Reality. And it was a really fascinating way of talking to all sorts of different people as we were trying to navigate what was going on in the world a few years back. So we've just kind of progressed since then, and we keep having these awesome series. The new one that's going to be coming up is around the concept of creating new earth and a collaborative mission. And I want to talk to experts in all sorts of different areas, from education, health, and homesteading, and getting back to nature, and all of these different ways and how we can support ourselves in moving forward. While you're at the inspirehealthpodcast.com website, check out the courses. We've got a whole area called Inspire Life Multiversity where we will be running more and more online courses. Both myself and my wife will be doing that, and we'll be collaborating with different guests that we interview that we think have a really incredible message that we want to share with you and make it tangible. This is the difference right now, is it can't just be intellectual knowledge. We need to be able to have an experience with it and make it tangible and then integrate it into our lives. Right now, that's what we're doing on my newest course called Nature Care Solutions, Reclaim Your Power to Heal. If you missed that one, just click on it and join the wait list, and then we will let you know when the next course will be running, and then we can get you in on that. There's a couple of other things that are there too that you can check out, and there's also some free downloads, so you can get the free meditation Accessing Your Heart's Wisdom if you haven't already done that. It's a wonderful meditation. It's a really powerful tool when you are having troubles making decisions. So often when we're stressed and we're not making good decisions, we're up here in our head, and we need to be able to slow things down, get out of that sympathetic fight or flight dominance, and get back into a heart-centered area where we can ask the same question and then learn to discern the nuances in the body and how it responds. So if you haven't checked that out, go and do it. It's just a free download. You can go and access it, and then anytime you are making big decisions in your life, make sure that you do that type of an exercise and see what your body and your heart is telling you. I think it's incredibly valuable, particularly right now. Now, in today's episode, we interview Britain's #1 psychic medium, Nicky Alan, and she's been a renowned psychic for like 31 years. She's an absolute riot and a really fun interview, and we had a great conversation. And she's had a lot of experience speaking with spirits that have crossed over on the other side. And given that the current series we're doing is on life, death, and beyond, exploring our greater reality, I wanted to get her insights on what's actually going on the other side. What's it like to communicate with people on the other side? What are they saying? What is it like on that side? And so she shares a lot of that information, but we go so much farther. We get into a lot of stuff around health and chronic illness. She had been suffering for a period of time and still is with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, something that we're actually going to be collaborating on to see if we can help her out with that as well, which we'll talk more about soon. But she's been dealing with that for some time. So we want to talk about the metaphysics around chronic illness and what's going on and why. We also talk about the role with our kids and connecting to the spirit child. And we also talked to her about what is going on in the world today. And it's been a wild ride, to say the least, over the past several years. And I want to get her perspective on what's been going on, as well as just what might be coming up. What is she aware of? And we dive into some of that and some pretty, that was a really interesting section of this overall conversation. So as far as what's coming up, what you can maybe expect and how you can navigate that from a place of more inner authority. So I really appreciated this interview with Nikki, and I'm sure we'll have her back on the show again at some time. I hope you guys enjoy it, and please feel free to leave comments. Let us know what you would like to know more about, and then we can see if we can pull that into a series and bring in the guests to round that topic out as best as possible. All right, everybody, much love to all of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Inspire Health Podcast. And we are continuing on with our series on life, death, and beyond, exploring our greater reality. And today we have Nicky Alan, renowned psychic of 31 years. For 18 years, she was a police officer and trained detective in Essex Police. Following medical retirement in 2003 and by public demand, she has achieved a very high profile in the spiritual industry as a full-time psychic medium, spiritual teacher, writer, and angel expert. She's been published in many magazines, carried out European theater tours, made radio and television appearances, and authors of Rise and Fall of Britain's Best Psychic Medium and M.E. Myself and I, Diary of a Psychic, A Miracle Journey Surviving Chronic Illness. And today we are going to listen to Nikki share her insights around what lies beyond this greater reality. So, Nikki, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. We were just discussing before, weren't we, about how those little, do you know, I don't know if it's spirit energy, angel energy, just frequency of light workers and people that connect like that. But again, we've had technical issues, but that's absolutely fine. I like mentioning it because when I look back at all these videos, I look at how many times they interfere with it. I love it. It is a pain though, isn't it? Because when you're sitting waiting for a sign, nothing happens. And then when you're sitting there trying to get a video on, they're doing it all the time. I just saw, I don't know if you saw it just before we started, there's a big white flash just went past me. I'm like, hello, what's going on there? Anyway, thank you for having me.
It's true. Right before we started, our entire system had a whole bunch of glitches and noises, and we had to reboot the whole thing. And hopefully it all works well now. So
yes, they're all settled now. They're all ready to listen, the same as everybody else, hopefully.
Nikki, you've got such a fascinating story, and in your books, you really outline. I mean, it's like amazing story after amazing story, just on and on and on. So I think when people can dive into that, they can really get a feel for you and your whole journey around everything. But you come from like a long lineage of psychic mediums, and I'm just wondering, as far as when did you know that you were kind of tapped into the same gifts in the same way?
Well, do you know what? It was never hugely, I am a psychic medium, but my granddad was like Gandalf from Lord of the Flies. I'm being really, really Lord of the Rings. Being really, really weird now. Do you know Gandalf? You know, this big wise person, or a Yoda of spirituality, my granddad was. And he came from seventh son, seventh son, seventh son. And we know it goes back at least 4 or 5 generations. So it wasn't really a big statement of him being this kind of guru, because he was like, you know, the last seventh son, the seventh son. And he was very gifted. He was used to Scotland Yard to, you know, solve murders and all sorts of things. And he didn't really, you know, make it obvious. When I was about 3, most probably 3 or 4 years old, I used to dream that my soul used to walk out of my body and watch a light that ebbed and flowed at the top of the landing of my stairs. And I knew it was an entrance to another dimension. And I knew that sometimes I could get closer, but if I got too close, I was told to come back again. I wasn't allowed to go through that door. So I knew that kind of thing. I would sense things and they'd happen the following day. I would know people's thoughts and feelings. And I thought it was all completely normal. I thought everybody could do that, to be honest with you. And it wasn't until my dad died in a road accident when I was 9. About 2 days later, I was out walking the dog with my auntie. Everybody obviously was back at the house grieving. And my dad pulled up in a car and he went, "Don't worry, Nick, I'm okay." And I went, "Whoa, hang on a minute. My mum's just told me that, my daddy's dead. He's just driven past me. So I ran back really, really like I was really angry and really full of rage. And you can imagine how heartbreaking that was for some of the other side of the family that are not as spiritual, seeing me scream and rage at my mum, saying, "How dare you lie that my dad's dead?" And that was when my granddad, my dad's dad, which is a stronger side paternal, pulled me aside and said, "Listen, darling, that was daddy's spirit you saw there. You're going to see angels. You're going to see special people that have passed over. You're going to see a lot of different things that most people can." And I kind of, I don't even remember. And even I asked my mum, I said, "How did I react to it when Granddad said it?" You just went, "Oh, right, okay." And then you just went off and played and did whatever you were doing. And so I just took it as, as for granted. And then when I started noticing as I got older, there's always tarot cards on the table. My auntie was a brilliant automatic writer. There were crystal balls, Victorian scrying plates that I've got now, and it was just, and tea leaves, the old-fashioned tea leaf reading, and it was all just completely normal. So I felt like a bit like Harry Potter, the muggles were out there and weren't awake or aware. I was living this, I always call it that. How dare you call me a muggle? But I just felt this, I walked in two different layers of awareness. And so my granddad didn't have a clue. He would talk to people that passed over all the time. And my nan used to say, "Fred, you're talking to a dead one again." He'd go, oh, I'm so sorry, love. I'm so sorry. He just didn't care about the difference of the realities, 3D and 5D. Whereas with me, I'm totally aware of walking with them and totally aware of being here. It wasn't until I was in bed for 5 years, after my road accident, then I had to completely jump off the human wagon after I surrendered and get over to living complete spiritual, a spiritual reality, if you like, because the human side I couldn't cope with. And I think that was a big turnaround. And now there's a very happy balance, I'd like to say. Harmony, balance and zen around me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that accident that you're speaking of? What exactly happened?
Oh, it was horrific. I knew it was coming. Lots of people do you know they do that joke, don't they? "How did you know it wasn't coming?" Ha ha ha. And I say, "Wow, I've never heard that joke before." But I woke up and with a start, when you wake up and you're like in a cold sweat, and I felt like something had just smashed into me. I knew I was in a car. Knew it was prophetic because psychic dreams are more lucid and you remember them, every detail, and you're normally left with kind of like this residual energy of the emotion you went through during that dream. So there's kind of difference between a psychic dream and just a random dream that's picking up on subconscious thought processes. And I thought, oh my God, there's going to be an accident. And so at the time, I'm not even going to speak his name. And it's very rude what I called him in my book. But I do call him Dick. And I basically said, "Oh my God, we're going to have an accident." He goes, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I've just seen myself get hit. And it's like it's one of my dreams. I know it's going to happen." And he's like, "Well, when is it?" And the problem is I didn't know when it was or how it was going to happen. So I knew, when I look back on it now, I knew it was part of my landmarks and it had to happen to change my life, as I wouldn't be here now with what I'm doing. And so sure enough, later on, we drove to Devon. I lived in Essex, which is like southeast part of the UK. And Devon is a beautiful coastal, it's near Cornwall, I don't know if you know, that's southwest of the UK. And it's all just full of beaches and coastland. It's absolutely stunning. And I'd always wanted to live here. And long story short, I went down to Devon, where I'd found this place just when I was touring with Derek Acora and Colin Fry. And I thought, I'm going to live here one day. And sure enough, I got like a holiday home here in my home in Essex. And we were driving down that day. And literally, I said, "I'm really hungry. Let's stop off at a restaurant." As we were pulling in, I was in the passenger side, which would be the left-hand side for UK vehicles. And as I was pulling in, this young girl had only passed her test the day before. And she was mucking around with a CD, I think, or whatever it was. And she basically T-boned the vehicle. So I could see her coming. I could see her screeching towards me because she was speeding as well. And so I crunched up because I couldn't get my seatbelt out. So I crunched up and the impact was basically side on. And to cut a very long story short, the pain was the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced everywhere, which I couldn't understand. And I honestly thought I'd ripped my spinal cord. So everything just felt really wrong and really horrific. Paramedics had to get me out of the vehicle, got taken to hospital, had every test under the sun, and they basically started, must be shock. And I'm like, it can't be. I've never been in this much pain. And they went, no, it's shock, just go home and rest. I then ended up sleeping for nearly 2 days. And when I woke up, I realised I couldn't look at daylight. I had no cognitive understanding of anything around me. When I tried to stand up, I collapsed on the floor. I couldn't even walk to the bathroom. And I basically thought there's something they've missed. It's really, really serious. I went back to A&E, back to them, and said, you've missed something. They went, no, we haven't. And they basically sent me away. And then it was a whole year of me starting my grieving process, because I had all these shows booked up in theatres from work perspective, and I was so weak and I wouldn't give in. I wouldn't accept that there was something wrong, and I thought I'd be better soon. So I was even doing theatre tours on sofas and settees. They were putting like soft stuff up for me to sit on, you know, because I refused to give in. A year later, I got diagnosed with ME, which is chronic fatigue. I can't even say it, chronic fatigue syndrome, and fibromyalgia, which is overall body pain, chronic fatigue. And I remember hearing of this, other people thinking they're hypochondriacs. How wrong was I? And cut long story short, it's pretty much me describing me, myself and I, this very, short story of what I'm trying to get across, which is a whole book, of me then literally having to surrender because I collapsed halfway through a show. And my dad from the spirit world, the same dad who had died in the road accident, came down to me and said, look, you're going to come up to the worst years of your life. It's going to be horrific. I'm not going to lie, but I've got to tell you now, I'll be there with you. And by 2018, 2019, you'll have your dream. And I'm like, and if it wasn't for him, I don't think I'd be here now, to be honest with you. If it wasn't for him and my 2 little fur babies, I wouldn't be here. Because I surrendered, I had to stop work, which led to me becoming homeless, because I couldn't pay the mortgage at either place. Everything got taken. I literally had dustbin bags and my 2 dogs, and that was it. That's all I had. And then I went so badly downhill, spiritually, mentally, physically. My body just wanted to stop. It just wouldn't do anything apart from lay there. And so I was pretty much comatose for like 5 years. I was stuck bedbound. 8 months of that, I was homeless. So I was dragging myself around to friends' houses, staying on their sofas, with this extremely severe chronic illness, with 2 rescue dogs. And it was just the most overwhelming, most darkest time of my life. And it was just from that one split second mistake from that girl, who I'd quite gladly kill. Joking. Because she's mucking around with this CD. She changed my blinking life forever. However, it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Best thing that could have ever happened to me, because what happens is, if you're a spiritual ambassador, or you're someone that's going to have an impact down here, or you're a seer, or you're a prophet, or you're a light worker, bringing whatever it is to humankind, because God, we need it at the moment. And so I think that if there's a demise of one, they don't want that, because they need you down here, spreading their word, if you like, right? So they must have been up there going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She's like, so doesn't want to be there. And I was suicidal, because the doctors had said to me, that's it. You've got an incurable condition. You are not going to get out of that bed. You're not going to walk again. And I literally was incontinent. Sometimes I'd wake up, my eye wouldn't open. I sometimes couldn't hear or bear to listen to anything. It just literally plays havoc with your central nervous system. It's just the most horrific condition ever, and so overlooked. We are so overlooked. And I literally was left. And the book doesn't only highlight the magnificence of the spirit world, but it highlights how we truly are. That book is not my book. That book is millions and millions of people. Is a story that I relay in that. And so I just think I want to kill myself, which was quite easy, to be fair, because there was loads of morphine on the sideboard, and I was laying in my bed, and the only thing that kept me going, and I'll never forget that picture for the rest of my days here in the human side of things, is my 2 babies, Mia and Teddy, laying on my chest looking at me like, come on, get up, you need to let us out, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I arranged for dog walking, so they were exercising and everything. But I thought, my God, because I remember being a cop, I don't want to be found like a week later with them chomping into my face. No, I don't. So I don't want, I'm only joking. What I didn't want is I didn't want them left there crying by my dead, meat suit. And so I thought, I can't do it. I can't do it. And then I kept remembering my dad's words saying, listen, it's going to get better. Trust me, you're going to live your dream life by 2019. And I'm like, I've got to hang in for some reason. I don't know what it is. And that is when they must have said, as I said about 3 minutes earlier, they must have gone, oh my God, we seriously need to keep this one going because she needs to be doing what she's doing to help other people. I honestly think that's what happened. So the angels that visit, even the seraphim, right now, if I was listening to this, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, love, you were desperate and you wanted all sorts of things visiting. But the dogs would sense them and bark at them. So every time there was a visitation by a spirit guide, archangel, angel, whoever it was, they would go mental. So I knew I wasn't seeing things, or that I was, off in fairyland, adequately aided by loads of prescriptive drugs. So the angel realms and the spirit world pulled me back after I surrendered and said, right, well, I'll either kill myself or you sort me out. It's one or the other. And they obviously thought this is a massive crisis. We need to get this one up and running because she's got so much more to do on this earth plane. And so they showed the most incredible, mind-blowing synchronicities and messages. Even my nan coming down and telling me to go on Facebook, and it's the drug that I used for 8 years that got me out of bed. They literally did save my life. They saved my mind. They brought my faith back. And some people may say, well, yeah, you're already open to it. No, I wasn't. I hated them with a passion. I convinced myself that it was all an illusion, that it didn't exist. There was no spirit world, because I thought, how could they possibly, do this to me after all the work I'd done for them and everything I'd done for humankind. So I went through all of that. And so I had no faith whatsoever. I had absolutely no faith whatsoever. And people that even thought of coming around and spouting there, oh, it's a lesson. Oh, you'll find out. And I'm like, just get out. I don't want to hear it. I was just not who I am today at all. The darkest version of myself. And the amount of shadow work I had to do and the amount of stuff I had to do. And, it wasn't easy. They weren't dinging a wand going, oh, look, we'll make this better, because I still have the condition. The difference is that I see everything positively. I see everything through a spiritual eye. I see the bigger picture. So rather than sit as a victim, rolling in the corner saying, oh, woe is me, I'm in agony, I'm in pain, I've got this, I've got that, I can't do this anymore, which I used to. It's all about grief. It's all about honouring a grieving system, healing your body and mind to the best you can, and finding the positives in life, even when it gets really dark. So even my dad said, when he'd visited me back in 2013, he'd said to me, you're going to teach on a completely different new level. You're going to work so deeply. You're not even going to know yourself. And he was so right, because I always thought I was just here to prove life, the afterlife, which I've done for nearly 32 years now. And I was like a cop with my readings. I feel like I'm in front of a jury. I feel like I will prove to you that I'm talking to your loved one. So those poor guides and those poor people, we go she wants to know your address, your inside leg measurement, what your last job was, what your last wage was. No, only joking, but I really wanted to deliver that, and I thought that was my path. And now my path is not about that. I look at myself now as an assistant. I used to look after murder victim families in the police or rape victims. And now I feel like I'm looking after humankind and whoever reached to me, I will help them get through crisis, shadows, grief, trauma, anything at all. And whatever spiritual tips I have, as we had to delay this because my darling fur baby Mia passed a week and a half ago, and so rather than, I did shrivel up and die for a little while, I'm not gonna lie, we all do, we're human, but all of the tips, I thought, blimey, I need to share this. So all of the tips I use spiritually, things like amethyst for healing, the violet leaf, sacred oils, all the things that I knew that would help me grieve and what angels to invoke, I did. So I thought I'd share that. So I do a lot of social media work to help educate and tutor people, as well as through my writing. I do all these videos, and obviously I do these lovely interviews like I'm doing with you. And I've just had to change the way I work. Originally I'd be touring around doing my seminars, workshops and demonstrations, but thank God we've now got this wonderful, technical age where I can get through to people sitting here, even if I'm in pain and not able to do a proper big show. So it's worked out beautifully. I see the beauty in everything. I see the symbolic reasons for things. I communicate so much more clearly with humankind and them, all because of the things they taught me through that process. And it's just been amazing. And I see it as a gift, what happened to me, even though most people who read it go, how did you get through that? How did you? And sometimes even now, right, I go back and I read a couple of the chapters and I'm like, I don't know how I did. I've got no clue whatsoever how I did. Just no clue.
I think that's beautiful, Nikki. And I'm wondering, like, where are you now in that process? And going through all of that, how do you perceive healing? From your perspective, how does healing sort of take place when we think about it from physical, mental, emotional, spiritual? From your experience, where's the interplay between them, or what was the most profound piece that really you felt opened up the doors to healing for your body?
Self-love. Basically, in my story, I'm very raw in it. I wanted to, lots of people say, well, you keep it really real, you do. And it's kind of stuck. Everybody, this keeping it real thing that people say about with my work and that. And I wanted to keep this book real. And it was my diary. When I could write, I wrote things down just to try and use it as a therapeutic tool to make sure I wasn't going mad, and writing all these people that said they're angels. I'm like, oh my God, I better write that down so that I can Google it and see if that really exists. Like when Raguel introduced himself, I never heard of him in my life. And so I started doing that, and I started paying more attention to myself. So when people say about the lockdowns, with the coronavirus, it's like you ain't got a clue. I was like 5 years with myself, and I'd never done that before. And I explain this in the book because I hid behind the detective badge for those years. Then I hid behind the Nicky Alan badge. And so what I was doing was I was doing healing for myself, like the textbook healing. I was giving it out to other people. I was helping people, and I thought that was enough. But in the book, I take you through my trauma of my childhood. And I had a massive belief in my heart, soul and mind, despite all the work I was doing, that I didn't deserve it, that I didn't deserve to have good things happen to me, that people only like me because of my gift. So I had this real massive demon thing going on from abuse from my childhood and the losses that I had endured. And I had this belief system. And so when I started getting the visitations from the spirit people, the angels, the biggest thing that I kind of took on board was you need to want to heal yourself. You need to love yourself enough to want to heal. And it's very interesting, because I think, with Mia, when she got diagnosed with Cushing's, I was on it, healing every day. And I'm like, and they said, well, why didn't you do that for yourself? Why don't you do that for yourself? And so I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough. So the first thing I had to do was learn to love myself, and that I deserved to heal, and because some people can come into victim mode when it comes to abuse. Some people can be aggressive. Some people hate themselves. And I really didn't like myself very much at all. And I certainly wouldn't have gone on in front of a camera to thousands, millions of people sitting in my pajamas in bed, which is what I ended up doing on, my YouTube channel and TikTok. And so I thought, I'm going to have to love myself a bit. And I found that writing the journal was a bit of self-love, because I was giving myself some time to say how I was feeling, my emotions, what was going through in my head. And then I started thinking, well, I'll sit out in the garden. And it was not for a tan. It was to, listen to the bird song, listen to the wind going through the trees. And I started to appreciate things that I suddenly like doing. I suddenly realized I like war films. Because what I was doing was I realised that there was a codependency issue with me, that I'd want people to just want me, and that I would shape myself to them. And then suddenly, when I was on my own, I started to discover what I loved. I loved watching little cuttings grow in plants. So I loved my garden. I loved war films. I loved recycling things. If I was well enough, just try and paint something. And it was all things, I'm quite proud of myself. I did that for me. And I realized that the healing process has to start within, but you have to want it. You have to believe that you deserve to have it. And I surrendered, and I lost the guilt I felt for the things that happened to me, because I blamed myself for my abuse. I blame myself for bad relationships. I blame myself for a lot. But then suddenly I started to see my inner child. And to remind myself of that, I've got a picture of me with one of my first ever dogs. And that's my inner child photograph. And I always recommend everybody to have one of those if they've gone through that kind of environment as they grow up, to look at a younger child that you want to look after and love. And so, for instance, now with the healing has to start from within. You really want to do it. So we can all do the textbook, or get some amethyst stone. Oh yeah, listen to this meditation. Oh, take this. This will make you feel better. Back's remedy. You know, listen, smell this oil. But you can do all that. But if your heart's not in it, or you don't feel like, you know, you're good enough, or you don't love yourself enough to be the best you can, it's not going to work. I have got, and so many people, and they're going to ask it, why are you not fitting well now? I have got no clue, because I've done everything I possibly can now, because I've worked from within, and I actually love myself to say, yeah, you really deserve to have that mobility, that lack of pain, la la la. But it's still there, and I have no idea why. The difference is, though, is that I healed my mind. My mind, all of our minds have demons in them, monkeys that tell you you're not good enough, you're too big, you're too small, you're not tall enough, you're not short enough, or whatever. And so it's stilling those monkeys, stilling those demons, putting them away somewhere where they don't need to be, and just being a conduit for opening yourself to divine inspiration, divine guidance, not being all spiritually and frou-frou, you know, because I haven't felt like that the last couple of weeks since my little fur baby died, but it's still there. It's still there somewhere, allowing it to flow in. It's okay. It's okay. You know that your baby's going to Rainbow Bridge. You know that you'll be able to see, and it's get signs and synchronicity. And then this bit is, right, self-healing. What do we need to do? And so I did everything I could to make myself feel as comfortable and as best I can in the circumstances. And that's what I do now, you know. So some days, don't get me wrong, I get bad days when I'm like, I could be touring now. I could be doing another TV series. I was about to tour America, Canada, and Australia just before my road accident, you know. And if I carry on looking back on that, what is the point of that? That's just going to bring me down. So I changed my mindset, bit of CBT, changed my mindset to, what can I do? What have I done recently that's helped somebody? And the feedback, the emails, the messages, the comments I get from people to say, you've changed my life, or you've changed my way of thinking of things, and I so look forward to seeing you, whatever it is, I think, you've done good, Nikki. Well done, you. And I'm always there with this self-love and, you know, telling myself how proud I am of myself. And that's what people need to do. And mirror work, oh, that wasn't good. If with mirror work, you have to look in the mirror and tell yourself how beautiful you are, how gifted you are, how wonderful you are, how kind-hearted. I was like, oh, I can't be doing that. And it took ages for me. It took ages for me to finally go, yeah, okay, yeah, I do love myself. You're right, Nikki. You're a survivor. You're a strong lady, and now you're helping people as much as you can. And I've been put on this planet to help. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. It's like a drug. You know, at the end of the day, I could give in and surrender and just go around in my little mobility scooter and just do nothing in the world. Hell no, I can't do that. I need to be here talking about this, sharing my experiences, writing that no matter what happens, you are never, ever alone. Whatever happens in your life, good or bad, whatever you signed up for in your life plan, I'm telling you, you do not walk it alone. And I, you know, I look back on that book, I think, my God, that really did happen. It really did happen. And then with The Rise and Fall, you know, my second book, all of that, I could do 50, 60, 70, 100 books on my experiences. But but they're all brilliant before my accident, but for some reason they now really impact on me. I just really feel the vibration of it, whereas before I felt a bit of a servant to humanity. Does that make sense? I felt like I had to go on stage and deliver their nan and their grandpa and their mom and all that kind of thing, and I felt I had this. But now I'm me, and I think what can I share today that may help one soul, and that's how I live my life. And then I go I go down by the beach. I ordered all this. They taught me how to cosmic order. I never believed in it. Tried it, but thought it was a load of old pants. They taught me that. And so I'm literally just a stone's throw from the beach. I can hear the waves now. And so I just sit there and say, tell me, what do I need to do now? And all these wonderful ideas come in. So recently, this is just incredible, right? Recently, obviously, I spent a lot of time at the beach to deal and allow my grief to flow for Mia. And so I sat on the beach and I was sending a prayer up to Archangel Raphael for healing. He goes, you know that lots of people know that they don't know how to ask for my help. And so I said, what do you mean? He goes, they don't know how to ask for my help. And so now that's given birth to this wonderful invocation for angels prayer. And I've just recorded my first one. I think it goes on my channel tomorrow or the day after. And literally all you got to do is just plug it in, and I'll do archangels for whatever situation you need. Just plug it in, listen to it, embrace it, and that'll be enough for your intent to send the invocation up and connect with the angel realms. So, so silly little things like that. I just think, wow. And they just pop in there. It's lovely. It's like having a little Jiminy Cricket. And he goes, oh, do you know what? Do that next. And then look at this, right? Hang on a minute. I've got it here, right? So I'm writing my journal, my soul journal. Any of my students will say to you, if you haven't got a soul journal, you're in trouble, right? And they used to walk in, bless them, and go, Nikki, I've forgotten my soul journal. Right, it's okay, don't worry. Just don't forget it next time. Soul journal is what I call a soul Bible, a soul diary. And you can put in everything, dreams, meditations, what the card said that you pulled, what you got from a medium, symbology, cosmic ordering, your thoughts, feelings, emotions. Great therapeutic tool for mental health, but also amazing and essential, I believe, for spiritual development. And so I was writing out, like I was saying, I need to write to Mia, and I'm like, oh God. And then I got to the end of my soul journal. I'm like, I've run out. I need to carry on writing. And I didn't have any empty soul journals. I just had all my old ones. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I sat and thought, right, I'm not going to be beaten. So Canva, I don't know if you know that, it's magic. Someone had told me about it, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to understand that, right? And then after, I'm not going to lie, it took a few hours because I was pretty rubbish. And then I created my soul journal. I only did that a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then
That's awesome.
that, right. So I ordered a proof copy so I could carry on writing in it. Like for me, I'm like, can it hurry up? When am I going to get it? And then my friend went, oh my God, you should just put that straight on Amazon. She goes, it's just a little soul journal for someone to just write this stuff in. So I did. And then I think, wow, so can you see what I mean? So everything I go through, I always reflect on it and think, is that helpful for someone out there? And then I just think, yeah, I'll go with that. And that's how it flows. So I don't put any pressure on myself. But to talk to people across the pond, oh my God, I just love it. To reach people like you doing exactly the same as me, just bringing awareness of light and all of the different qualities of how we can heal and how we can change ourselves. And a lot of that, excuse me, is mindset. So another lesson, I told you, I talk for England, Wales, Ireland, Europe, you name it. I talk and talk and talk. But I remember my Julianus, who's my main guide, I talk about him, I think, in both books, how I met him and how we know each other in a previous life and how I proved that. Oh, it's all in there. It's all in there. Anyway, he said to me, there's something very curious about you humans. And I said, what's that? And he said, why do you always choose to walk in the desert like a brave martyr rather than sit in an oasis and just eat and drink and be completely comfortable, mindfully? So I went, he goes, well, why do you keep going, oh, God, I've lost this, I can't do this, I've lost my house, I can't get a house, I'm homeless, I'm ill. And he was like, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. I think you're losing the plot here. I think you are not remembering how painful it is a human. He goes, I am. He said, but why don't you think about being in the oasis rather than drag yourself through something that's never going to feed your soul again? totally right, the desert or the oasis. So sometimes when I go downhill, especially I have done, I'm not going to lie, in the last couple of weeks, we all do as humans, my baby's gone, and I'm like, wow, this is rubbish. I could have had another couple of years of it. And then you start, the rose tinted glasses come in, and you can take yourself down the quickest rabbit hole of your life if you let it. So I'm trying to teach people, and I still do it myself, is that I say stop and I wind back, because every thought leads to an emotion, that leads to behavior. And so I try and stop that and immediately change it. And that's just a funny little story that I changed it to distract myself and did that. I think it's quite a good little effort, actually. But, you know, and that's what happened with the book, Rise and Fall. I thought, right, I need to turn this into something. You know, so many people go, wow, you've got amazing stories. I'm like, nobody knows about them. So that's why I thought I'd then do the prequel to Me, Myself and I. I don't know if you can hear that, but we have this, like, it's called Beam Ads, where all the bikers go onto the seafront for a coffee and show each other their bikes. So if you wonder what that was, that's what it is, darling. Yeah, it's all the bikers going down to the seafront. And so, yeah, so that's how the books have come about. And I'm doing 2 at the moment. I shouldn't be doing 2. I should really keep on one, but one's led to the other. Another thing is that someone sent me the most beautiful email about Mia passing, and she spoke about her dog who had passed and recommended some memorial things, which is lovely. I love the community I have on YouTube. They're just beautiful people. And she sent me that. And then she wrote down the most amazing signs she got from a dog. And I'd just done a video about signs. I thought, hang on a minute, missing a trick here, because I'm telling people about all my experiences where they may think, well, yeah, it's a given. You're a medium. You're born into it from hundreds of years ago. All of my family are mediums, psychics and healers, right? It's a given. But I thought, how about telling the stories of the real people that haven't developed and they've had the most amazing spirit contact and proof of the afterlife, and put that in a book. So that's, well, basically nearly done. And then the other one is what happens when we die, which is, I remember when I was still poorly, but my uncle died and I wanted to know where he was. And so I did a little cheat, went up there and said, right, show me what happens to a soul. And my goodness, it was the most incredible meditation in my life, with loads of synchronicities afterwards to back it up. And they basically showed me the soul journey straight after physical death, right the way around to when we're reincarnated for our next life plan, our next human experience. And so all of that I've got to get on paper, and they've given me a man-made map of heaven, because if you try and describe lights, frequencies, layers of, intelligence, quantum space, people would be like, oh. So I have to try and keep it in layman's terms, as simple as possible. So I said to them, take me through the main layers of heaven, if you like, the Crystal Palace, I call it, and map it out for me, and then I will deliver it to us down here in the best way I can, that will make it simple to describe heaven and why we're here, why we incarnate, and why we have such rubbish things happen to us, and why such nasty people have good things happen to them. It's all in there. It's just trying to get the time to do it.
Wow.
To do it all.
I wonder if you can share some of that with us. Can we get a preview to all of that? That sounds right in line with the series and what we're investigating. Wow.
Something that a question that I think comes up a lot of times is when, especially when you look at stuff like, all the work around law of attraction, all these different sort of things that have come up in manifestation, and then you kind of wonder, well, why does sometimes it seems like such horrible people have such amazing things happen to them? So I would love to get some insight from what you've picked up around that. That would be, I think, really helpful for people too, to let go of some of it.
Young souls, I've asked it a couple of times. I'm very lucky that I've got a very fluid conversation with the people around me in the spirit world, like my guides. So Juliana's, I used to channel him and he used to answer questions, or I'd answer questions. He is on Valium, that man. He must take Valium and painkillers. He's like, why did I want to look after Nikki? He's like, what did I do? What did I do in the previous life? He says to me, you're kidding. I should ask myself. He doesn't really. Well, I'm looking after you. Whatever did I do wrong? So anyway, what happened is that there was this most loveliest man, and I'll never forget him, right? Because it was incredible reading. His name, oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. Oh my God, he's going to get me for that. I know he is. It'll come through. It'll come to me. Let's just call him Simon, right? So this lovely man and woman are in the audience, and oh no, I think they came for reading actually. And right, this bloke kept going like this, like James Bond, right? And I'm like, oh, shut up! What? I said, does he like James Bond films? I went, no, well, not particularly. I went, and he's going ding 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 ding, and all this, and he's really much about absolutely gorgeous man, right? Ding 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 ding, and I'm like, in the end, I went, oh my god, he's a spy. So he worked for MI5, didn't they? I went, yeah. They said, we didn't want to tell you, but we would have if you. And I went, oh my, and he was a bloody spy. And he was really courageous. He wanted to serve the country. He'd like, you know, done all sorts of things. Beautiful hearted, kind, wonderful man, right? The person that he was with, who he got estranged from, was the most nastiest, selfish, evil, deceitful, horrible person you could possibly meet. I could make it really colourful, how I describe her, but we've got to keep it clean. So anyway, I'm chatting to him, and I find out that she won't allow the mum and dad to see his child, right? She's taken all his belongings. Basically, she's been an absolute horrible whatever, right? And so she's still living, and he basically just dropped dead. And they don't know how, but they possibly put it down to SAD, which is sudden adult death syndrome. And so they're like, why? Why is such a beautiful man like him, who gave up everything to serve his country, do the best he could, he was the best dad, die, and yet that horrible thing stays on the earth plane? And it's very simple. My dad answered this as well. Young souls and old souls. So, and Julianis have all, over the years, they've explained this to me. So what happens is a young soul has basically been on the earth plane, and he's gone up, and he's whinging a bit, this young soul, because it's like, oh no, I want to crave money, I want to know what it's like to be rich, I want to know this. And a really shallow young soul that doesn't really want much depth or ascension, you know, he doesn't really care. So he's the robber that wins the lottery, you know, he's the person that gets discovered and then lives a life of fame, you know, in just a old school whatever, you know. You think, if you notice, like, yeah, how the hell did they get there? It's just pure divine timing and chance. And then some of them notice they go home early because they say, oh no, yeah, but I don't want to come back, I want to come back again, but I want to do this time round. So they're thinking of all the shallow things they want to experience, right? As you get older, and your soul cluster that come back down, as you get older, you see past the material illusion of this matrix we're in, if you like, right? And so you see past that, and you want to have real soul interactions that make you either cry or laugh, or break you or make you. And the older you get, the harder path you choose. Okay. And so there is this saying that, you know, well, it's not a saying, but what they say to me is your reward is to come back home. That's the hell down there, unless there's a reason for you to have that long life down here. So I say, well, hang on a minute though, you've still got all these, you know, people still hurting people that are down there. And they said, well, the people they're hurting have chose that experience as well, and are old souls. So the long and short of it is that the younger soul wants the more material experience, because they still crave human experiences like money, wealth, happiness, you know, all of the kind of, not naughty, but just the shallow stuff. You know, that's what they want to come back and crave. And as you get older, you want to crave more meaningful experiences for your soul. And this is believed, this is what my granddad's told me up there, they've all told me over the years, is that this is all down to almost getting badges of accomplishment that your soul can then, because of the amount of knowledge it's gone through and the amount of experiences it's gone through, it's almost like you get promotions into different astral planes. I don't want to get too deep, because that's when people go and there's a flat line, they're like, no, I don't know where you're going with that. But it's all about soul ascension. So I get, so especially TikTok, there's a lot of people there that go, what are you talking about? I didn't ask for this life. Yeah, you did, actually. You did ask for it. Not all of it, but you would have signed up along the way for your soul guide to look at your landmarks and go, right, this is what you want to experience. I'll help you to try and tick off all of those. When you go back up for your life review with Archangel Jeremiah, found all this out. I didn't have a clue. I've got to make it clear from here, I don't read anything unless they tell me to read it, right? So I don't study or go and look at the archangels. They literally have popped in and gone, hello. And I'm like, hello, who are you? I'm Jeremiah. Never heard of you, mate. Well, Google me. Oh, that's Archangel Jeremiah. And then what'll happen is that, for instance, Jeremiah, who calls a dog Jeremiah, right? So I'm out by the beach and someone's going, Jeremiah, come on, Jerry. I'm like, you've got to be having a laugh, right? Just to back up, he was real. That all those sort of synchronicities. And he basically said, the older you get, the more experiences that you want to enrich your soul, because you get to a stage of deeper meaning where you want deeper connections with experiences down here, whether they're negative or positive. Obviously, you've also, on top of that, you've got the karmic reactions to what's going to happen in your next life. So perhaps if you didn't do something, perhaps if you took yourself over and you weren't supposed to, you have to relive karmic. Also, you may even pick to have some of the situations, I'll tell you, I'll explain it, situations in your past life that are interfering with your future. So for instance, if this is quite a funny story, actually, my brother, Richard Morley, is an amazing psychic medium. So because I can't do one-to-one readings now because of my energy, I only do like evenings like this, or, you know, evenings of mediumship via Zoom. So my brother, Richard, works exactly the same as me, but he's a health intuitive as well. So especially if people have got any problems with ailments or can't work out what's wrong with them, go over to Richard. And he's got the energy. He's got ME like me, but he's got the energy to do one-to-one readings after an hour. So like for this, I have to rest all day, and then the following day I can't maintain readings that way, so I send him his way. So he comes, so he's so it comes out, he does loads of meditation now, but this was in the earlier years of when he first started doing readings, wasn't meditating a lot himself. He goes, what's this all about then? So I said, what's that? And he goes, it's ridiculous. And this was just as I got these messages about young and old souls. He goes, how is it that I've got this bloke who was a bloody horrible person? You know, he was drank a lot. He was really abusive to his children. Nobody really liked him. And he was really horrible. And he's still here. And yet I've got this lovely girl who was the lady's daughter who passed when she was 20 with a brain tumor. What's all that about? I went, whoa, stop. And that's when I explained it to him as well. And so it's kind of like it was a message for me to go through to him. I said, now I'm teaching you. And he said, whatever, you're not teaching me. I just needed to know that. But that's all. So we have this lovely banter. But what works lovely is because we're in this same energy field, we cross stream. And so it's normally when I get told something, he'll go, what do you think on that then? And I go, oh my God, I've just been told that. So I'm like, yeah, this is what happens, you know. So we kind of cross stream each other on dealing with all different types of people. So on this karmic business, you know, that's what I was going to say to you. So I was doing this meditation and I met this and I thought, oh no, please, no. So I was in my first ever proper development circle, right? And this is in part of Rise and Fall. And then I get it. I get the Native American guide. I'm like, oh, please no. Everybody's got a Native American guide. Please don't do this to me. And I've got this massive calling to Sedona and Arizona. Oh my God, I so got to go there. And closest I'm getting is Florida. I'm in Florida working at a conference in October, which I can't wait. But I need to nudge over to like Arizona. Anyway, so I'm like, oh God, I've got this Native American. Oh God. So anyway, I come out of it, and my the circle leader, Aggie, says, "Oh, you've got a Native American guide." I'm like, "Oh, what joy!" Like everybody else. And so she said, "No, he's called Calm, but he's got a hammer in his hand." I thought, hello, he did have a hammer in his hand. So his name's Hamhog. It was then backed up when I went to what I call Hogwarts, which is the Arthur Findlay College, which is a psychic college based in Stansted, Essex, in England. Everybody goes there for courses. And it wasn't until I was in there, I don't want to do a spoiler because it was quite funny how this got given to me. But there was a lady in my room who then gave me, she drew guides, and she drew this like Native American with this feather. And she said, oh, his name's Hammerhog. I'm like, oh my God. This and it was my first real synchronicity of two different voices and two different sources of evidence to evidence my guide. I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry I took the mickey. Thank you. Please come here, Native American guide. Please come with me. I'm glad I've got you. And so I'm like, the only one I want now is a lovely gay man. I would love a gay man. So I've got my gay man, my Native American, and I've got my lovely Julianus, who's the lovely monk. And I just love to have a feminine energy like that, you know, a really lovely, open-hearted fun, because I can get a bit serious. Anyway,
Maybe you've got enough spunk on your own that that you
it could be. So he then says to me, so I'm sitting there with him and he takes me through to our previous life. I then Google button the hell out of what he showed me. And it's all the Navajo Indians in Arizona. And he showed me all our tools we had, how we died. Anyway, he said, why do you think you've had problems with your wrists? I've broken both wrists twice, right? They're very, very weak. I can't even push myself up, right? So, and my ankles are really weak. The amount, because I did a lot of sports before the police, during the police, all the rest of it, the times I ripped the tendons on my ankles. And he said to me, why do you think you chose to look after rape victims? And then he showed me the previous life that I had with him back in the 1600s, right? And the white men were taking the land and they'd got me as this young girl tied by my wrists and my ankles, and I was raped and then murdered. And he then took me through the rites and the funeral that a Navajo Indian would do, which I Googled and it was all completely correct. So I knew it was true. And he used to call me Ankala, and he said that he was my dad. I later found out that that was a word used in those times for daughter. So he completely, you know, proved his presence. And he said that was just a bit of karma that you had to just deal with from a previous life. And that was the wrists, the ankles, and me helping rape victims. I was also a victim of sexual assault when I was a child. And so I thought, wow, that's interesting. So part of another life that you're coming down on after 3 generations of being up, so that nobody knows you. So there's no loopholes of, oh my God, you look like my mum, you are my mum. Do you know what I mean? And there's no loopholes. And then when you come down, there's elements that you may have to deal with some karmic energy there. My friend Andrea Folks does amazing past life regressions to help ease these, because some of them can be quite strong in this life. Excuse me if you haven't dealt with them. And then it's your soul path, and it's all about getting those badges to ascend your soul, and the oblivion, the amazing energy that we can arise to through human interaction down here, and getting more and more knowledge is beyond words. What we can become everything everywhere, but without getting too deep. You know, I like to try and keep it that we're like people. We're not people, we're obviously spirit people. We're souls going back home to a source that we come from. But by giving it some humor, giving it some humility, giving it some reality to it, I feel that's why I do so well in getting across what I want to say to people, because I keep it real, I keep it simple. And every question anybody's ever asked me, if I don't know, I just go up and ask. And they're brilliant up there, as I say. Amidst the Valium and the, oh my God, Nikki's coming, don't look. They answer me beautifully. And then I just literally share everything I experience. One, because I mostly forget it. It was last week, I'd forget it. And as I wrote it in my soul journal. And I find it a real true honor that, you know, beautiful people like you have asked me to come on here, and other people do, and I find it incredible that people tune in to watch me and to learn things from me, and I'm so humbly grateful for that. And as long as people are watching and people are interested in what I have to say, I'll just go on till I go back to the spirit world, to be honest with you. So that is why, and that's the long Nicky Alan version, that is why we have bad people have good things happen, and good people have bad things happen. And that's, you know, that's as far as I can go with it, because every time you go, but why, the more you change the scenarios and you try and, yeah, but what about this? What they, and then just go, boof, I've told you your answer. This is what you need to know. So like, right, okay. And then that's what I impart, you know, and I don't know if it's a help to people or not. It is to me. It is to me. Every single thing that happens to me, the signs, synchronicities, the information I get, the dreams I get, it just really comforts me that whatever losses I go through, whatever happens in my life, I know 100 billion%, I don't believe, I know that we will go back home to all our loved ones in our soul cluster, animals and humans, and then we just stay in this wonderful utopia, creating our own reality. I call heaven the reality layer, where we all live with who we want to, deal with who we want to, get rid of who we want to, and then we just live this eternal life, and then we decide to pop back down, madness, pop back down for another human experience. And the more beautiful and deep and older we are within our eternal beings, the harder our paths are. You know, and do you know what? I listen to some people's stories. People naturally open up to me and give me their life stories and tell, my God, I don't know how they're still living. The trauma that people have, you know, mass shootings and things that people have told me about their lives. And yet they've still got this inherent faith, this strength to know that it will all be gone and they'll be back up there, and it will just be an experience that's just put in our little experience library. And that to me is just, nothing can beat that. I don't know how skeptics can live or how they cope thinking that it's all the end. Do you? How do they cope?
I don't know either. To me, it's like, especially when you're dealing with loss and things like this is why we're even doing this whole series, is to bring a different level of awareness for people, to kind of create some more ease and comfort and expand our limited vision of this. And you were saying then we do this insane thing where we come back again. I'm wondering if, do we collectively go through things? Because we've talked about sort of individuals, but I'm wondering, like right now, like just generally you look at the state of the world in many different aspects, and we're going through some pretty major changes and transitions, and a lot of stuff is coming to the surface. And I'm wondering if you can share your insights around that, and even where are we right at the moment in sort of close to getting middle of 2023, and you know, gosh, like on health and economics and more control and regulation that seems to be coming in all over the place. So is this something that collectively we are all going through, that's for all of humanity, not just individuals? And yeah, what is your take on that? What do you kind of pick up what's going on?
Totally. I actually, when I lost my holiday home, and I'm sure I write about this in Me, Myself and I, or Me, Myself and I actually had the most incredible dream that I woke up, my friend woke me up hoovering and banging the door, who I was staying with at the time when I was homeless. And then I thought, I might as well get up. And then a voice said, go back. And I went back into this dream. It was the most incredible dream ever. It went on for another 3 hours. So I woke up at midday. And I know that you scientifically can't dream, like you dream in seconds, not hours. And so I wrote it out, and it was my first ever book, and I sent it out, and I just lost my confidence. And it's called Earthwalkers. And I'm wondering now if I should change it, because I did it as a fictional story, right? But chillingly, I think it was about 9 or 10 years ago when I wrote this, 9 years ago when I wrote this, everything I've written in it has come true. Right. So I've written about the terrorist attacks, and we had the Manchester bombing, and then we had Paris being bombed. You know, I don't know if you remember that, when they literally were going around bombing everywhere in Paris day after day. And if you like, I kind of gave the devil a little character. He managed to come through a frequency, because up there was a high court meeting to say Earth is in massive trouble. Humanity's been lost. Respect for the planet, the animal kingdom's been lost, everything has gone wrong. The material setup of what these little ants have tried to do is crushing in, because the powerful beings and the people that are trying to rule the world are trying to now do it, and it's evident. And so they decide, shall we save the planet, or shall we just literally just get rid of it, take all the light workers up, the higher conscious, the older soul clusters, who can handle being on another planet telekinetically, and then we create a new dawn for them, or do we just, obliterate the planet, or do we try and save this one? So God, in my fictional story, says, well, no, I think we need to give it a chance. So what basically the story is that these four archangels come down, they connect with light beings down here, and then these happenings start taking place for people to wake up and realize that massive things need to change or the planet's going to end. And one of the things that the devil does is he creates this condition that if you touch someone or go near them, you catch it as well. But I depicted it with red eyes, and that if you stayed alive for 7 days, then you were part of the army. If your body couldn't take it, it just died, right? And that is just the coronavirus all over. It's the pandemic. And so there was all these things, and it gives me chills now that I wrote about the future. So really, that book wasn't a fictional story. Everybody wants me to publish it. I might run it through an editor and see what they think, right? Because it is the most incredible story ever, right? And what happens is that if I now integrate that into what the hell's going on with the world at the moment, it's exactly what's going on. The powerful, the quiet power lords, you know, that have been mushing around through their material companies, want more power over us. There, for some reason, there's an energy, and I have to come out of it. I have to be honest. I can't watch the news at the moment, and sometimes I have to come out of the spikes, the valleys and the troughs, and then the highs of humanity's energy, because we can feel that. We can feel the humanity energy because it is so corrupt and so in crisis and so in desperation that we're just being led like lambs to slaughter through the power and through whatever they're doing, through the phone signals. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but my brother has had more input in this, and he says that's going to happen next year. And he was totally right. That's going to happen next year. Going to take this away from us now. And have you noticed how, and I've just done a video on this, funny enough, have you noticed how everything is so difficult? You don't get hold of your local counsellor, health problems, everything is so hard. You know, I've got people writing to me saying, you know, they've told me that I'm dying of cancer, but then I haven't heard from them in 4 months. And you're just like, everything is just breaking us down into submission for I don't know what. But I feel that it will come to a climax. On the same subject, or on the same token, light workers like us and people like us are getting more and more people come to us. I would never have imagined going on TikTok in a million years. No disrespect to the channel, but I never thought I would be welcomed or even go on there. And yet my dad forced me to. That's another story from the spirit world, and I'm on it. And you see all these broken people that are angry and they don't know where to go. But then you suddenly get them turn around and think, hang on a minute, she's got something to say there. We're like lost sheep. And I feel like light workers, old souls, healers, mediums, psychics, whatever you are all coming to shine a light, to get away from the material crisis and tyranny that's taking place. And it's all very quiet, and everybody tries to focus on things like the Ukraine war and, you know, the bigotry and what's going on with Putin, whereas they're not realizing that the big moguls like Amazon and all those people, Bill Gates, they're all in the motions behind us, finding more ways to control us. You know, I don't know if you've had it, but we had this 5-minute zone thing that's been implemented. To be honest with you, I haven't even gone on to look at it because of the riots that have taken place, where you're not allowed to leave your hometown. You're only allowed 3 times in a whole year to go beyond 15 minutes from your house. What's all that about?
You
And
know,
if you go beyond it, you're fined. You're not allowed to leave or travel around your country. And my brother predicted this. I said, don't be so ridiculous, Richard. And he went, I'm telling you, I've seen it happen. My guides have shown me. We will have restrictions on where we're allowed to go, and there'll be armed presence there telling us we can't do anything that we want to. We've got no freedom. And my goodness, it's there. And I was watching the riots from a couple of months ago with armed police physically dragging people and, you know, throwing them around because they're asking for freedom. They're asking, you can't lock us in our town. But they're saying, yes, we can, and watch us do it. So I'm very, very concerned about it. And this is why I've never felt so passionate about trying to bring people over to their spiritual path and awaken their abilities, so that they can find some form of comfort, some form of escape to the place where they belong or where they've come from, rather than just be sitting in this energy that's so dense and corrupt. What's going on now, goodness knows what's going to happen in the US. I don't know what's going to happen there with all the presidential stuff. It's just politically, power moguls, money, all of these big moguls in all their different spaces are suddenly becoming predators. And again, I dreamt of that years ago, and that we had to try and dodge the predators so that we couldn't get caught in them, like Hunger Games, you know, being put in districts. And this is what they're starting to do, put us in districts where we're not allowed to leave to go to another district. And so, you know, all of this kind of stuff is like, whoa. So I then got too deep down that rabbit hole and thought, oh my God, what can I do? And I started to get quite anxious about it, because I'm thinking, what do you need me to do to try and help alleviate this problem? And it's just, we've got to let it ride, and we've just got to try and help people as much as possible reach that spiritual awakening. And so many are, which is really good. And so trying to wake people up, hopefully, if there is an eradication of the planet, which I don't feel at all at the moment, but, you know, it's pretty close, they will go up to a higher consciously evolved planet. The younger souls, I don't know. I don't know if they'll diminish or they're kept somewhere in a different layout. I really don't know. It's not good at the moment. And I just feel like I would rather be in nature, listening to these silent voices that come to me and bring love and light and hope to people, rather than get involved with all of the hate and the anger and all of the stuff that's going on that's trying to control us. I don't know if you feel that over in Canada, but it's like, I just don't like the world at the moment and the people running it anywhere. It just doesn't feel right. And I just hope that love, light, and this is again, you know, that even in my story, the Earthwalkers, the 4 children that are chosen to help the archangels, because they can't be seen, the archangels, so they use these children that are enlightened, and even the children, millennium children, and they're, you know, they've got these titles of autism or ADHD, you know, the human titles they're given, but really they are more spiritually aware than earthware, and they're the ones that hopefully are going to take us through and send the signals of empathy, love, peace, honor. You know, hopefully they'll be there to turn and flip this on its edge. It's slowly turning, but when I dip into it, it still feels chaotic to me. I don't know what you feel about it all, but I'm just feeling, I don't know which way it's going to land at the moment, but I feel like every spirit person, every light worker I speak to, they're all feeling the same. They're all trying to do their best they can to spread their light into every dark corner there is. And I think it's all we can do at the moment. I just don't even want to know. I don't know about what's going on in the world. I don't know about political leaders. All I see is war, hate, anger, death, murder, mayhem. And I just think, I can't deal with this. I need to stay in my bubble, not of denial, but I need to stay in my bubble and stay focused on what I need to bring to others who are in crisis, on top of the fact that we've got a living crisis, that money's gone through the wall, bills have gone through the wall, old people can't afford to, you know, heat their homes. It's just too much for a spirit person to take on, a spiritual person to take on.
And I think it's intense in a lot of places. I know here we were at a district meeting a little while ago in our town.
So this is in Canada.
This is in Canada, yeah, around 15-minute cities. And I asked the council there, and they were aware of it, but they get a very small piece. So
they get it piece by
they get a
piece.
little piece of it, and then they don't really get the next piece. So, you know, from their perspective, because we had seen a lot of what was going on in the UK, and it's like Canada's very much in line with, I think, what goes on there. Most people aren't aware of it, or they think it's conspiracy, but it's like it's actually going on. Like, go look.
I know.
And then we check with the council, like, yep, we're aware of that. And then, but they know one small piece of it. So from their perspective, it's almost like, well, it's not going to be like this. That's all conspiracy stuff. It's like, well, it's kind of funny that the first infrastructure thing that seems to go up is surveillance cameras. There's tons of them everywhere. That was one of the first things that came up. And so I guess when you, on your note, when you're talking about spreading more, get people to kind of connect more to their spiritual self, the reason I think that is so important too is because I know for us, and I know even the people we've reached in doing the podcast, when people connect more to that, they then show up and make decisions in a different way in the world. And so it seems to me that when you are connected to that, when you're connected more to what you really do feel like is your truth or your true self, you then are not okay with certain things. I think you feel the rub more. You're less likely to be okay with certain things that really do feel
like an insult to your soul.
Right. Exactly. So
yes, that's exactly it, darling. That it is an insult to your soul, isn't it?
Yeah. And so then I think that that is really important, that the more people that are wanting to connect more to that, because there's some solace in it, you feel like you're held in a different way. And then I think you have a little bit more courage to make different decisions and not go along with things that really don't feel right for you, or feel like they're trapping your soul.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And the thing is that once I start going on that thought process of what's happening in the planet, then I start feeling the ups and downs, the spikes, and then I start incorporating all the child abusers, animal abusers, and I think, oh, the world's all going wrong, and I get so caught up in it that I just think I need to let it lie. I'm sure there'll be activists and people that will do what they need to do materially to sort this out, however it works. But I feel that as light workers, we are the people that are just bringing awareness, encouraging people to awaken and to take that path. And, I do an online course, Prism Living, which is exactly that. It's to open your path to spiritual awareness. And it's all to do with chakras, angels, all the normal stuff that you need to take on board. It's 7 weeks. And there are so many people that said, you know what, I had a bit of this when I was younger and I really want to have a little go at your course. And they are flying. There's one who I said, you've got Reiki energy in you. She goes, how do you know that? I said, I know I'm emailing you, but I can feel it. You really need to grab hold of that. She goes, oh, I used to do it. But she's working in churches already now. And she's like, I'm a Reiki healer. Come and see me. Come. And she would have nothing to do with it. And now she's going, come on. Come to me. And she's got people saying, oh, can you come and work here? Can you come and do this? And then another one, oh, I used to, do readings for people. She's back in there doing readings for them. Oh, I'm going to start doing a crystal healing course now. And I'm watching people that were perhaps forgotten how awakened they were, blooming and bringing that light out. And I think that's what's happening. That's our job at the moment, is to keep bringing people out the light. Because I call it, I'm not going to I'm not going to use a rude word, but I feel like mushrooms. We're like left in the dark in poop and just fed a bit of light now and then. We're a fun guy, darling. We're mushrooms. And I'm thinking, do you know what? I don't want to wait for your little crumbles of light. Oh, we're going to help the crisis of living. We're going to help with the virus. We're going to give you injections. We're going to give you IDs and all this rubbish. I want the light here from my divine beings. That's what I'm going to live by and share. And the little morsels they're feeding us mushrooms, they can crack on with it. I'm just trying to do as much as I can to help people, because I get so many people genuinely terrified of the future, of the war. And I've just had a baby, should I have done that? And is there going to be a third world war? What's happening? And there's so many people like scaring them to a certain extent, but there's others that keep it well balanced, which they should do, and tell people really what's going on. And I really do just say to them, do you know what, I feel exactly the same, but I can't go there, but I can show you another place we can go, which will make you feel amazing and will help you to help others, and it will help you to bloom and shed your light and find out where your place is here spiritually. And that's a lot better way of doing it, rather than watching conspiracy theorists and thinking of the next way to rise against the government. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm happy in my bubble, and if I can share that bubble and just one person benefits from it in one day, my job is done, and I'm as happy as anything. Seriously.
Nikki, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I wanted to ask if it's okay if you can even share a story that stands out from when you were in the police forces, like a story that kind of came up where it brought online your gifts and your abilities in a way that was beneficial, or assisted the force in the way that they might have not been prepared to deal with, or to investigate on their own?
They didn't know how to take me. A lot of the people that I work with, a lot of detectives I work with, it's very different. When you're in uniform, it's a lot more friendly and it's not as intense, and people just used to take the mickey out of me and say, oh, you should have known that, you were psychic. So it's kind of like just bubbling away. And I used to do readings in the evening. It was quite a nice balance. But when I started my detective work, I was on CID, but then I was on major investigations. Things got a bit more intense because we were dealing with a lot of death, a lot of murders, a lot of murder victims. And I suddenly found myself seeing victims and hearing them and getting motives for murders. There is one story that stands out, which is just mind-blowing. And and sometimes you think, God, did that really happen? And it does, because you go back over your old soul journals. That's why they're so valuable. And I went back over all the police notes and the newspaper footings, and the newspaper cuttings, exactly how it happened. I found that when I was walking in, and they used to call me like the angel of death. If there was anybody that had died and someone had to get the message, I'll be like, I'll do it. Because it's not because I've got a warped sense of humor. I just literally can handle death. Because I know it's just a step to another plane. It's that simple. And so I was always a good strength, and I always believed I had this really good ability to say the right thing. You know, I brought my detective inspector in once, and he's like, all right, like this, with his cigarette. And so we walk into the murder victim family. She goes, would you like a drink? He goes, oh, I'll kill for a cup of tea. I'm like, oh, his son's just been killed. Don't say that. So I always knew how to say the right thing. And this one took me over to a completely different acknowledgement of reality, of how strong my ability was and how much it was really pushing against me being a professional detective. So basically a lady got killed, and she was found burnt out, rolled in a rug in a car off an island just off the coast of Leigh-on-Sea in Essex. And we had nothing. The husband was absolutely distraught. The whole family were distraught. It was horrific. And I was on the investigation team this time round. And I remember meeting the husband, and I am the most empathic person. I will give you my life if I could to make you feel better. That's the number one thing an empath does. But I just hated him on sight. I just didn't like him. And he's crying, oh, my wife. And she was only a young lady. And he's like rocking. I'm like, yeah, all right, never mind. Just really didn't care the first time I met him, which I thought was really off and really bad. And I didn't like myself for it. So I'm like, wow, don't be so judgmental. Anyway, what happens then is that, you know, don't forget, this is a massive investigation with many detectives getting material evidence, but we didn't have a lot to go on at that point. And we did suspect the husband, but what was the motive? They came across, everybody said they're the most loving young couple that, you know, loved each other, adored each other. She was always talking about him at work, blah, 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 blah. So I was on the investigation team, and my partner, not my work partner, not my partner, Nick, he knew of my ability, and lots of people, it got round, you know, CSI people would come to me and say, can you touch this blanket? Can you do this? And I used to say, yeah, go and do this. And I used to tell them what to do. And we just had to go and see the nephew of the girl that was killed, Tina. So we walked in, and it was an interview. It was like an official interview. And the problem is, I've got to go in as a detective, and I've got to remember the rules and the regulations, because this is going to go to a court of law, right? It's all recorded. He's got a solicitor. But then as soon as I walk in, as soon as I see him, can you imagine this? Can you imagine, right? I walk in and I can see him looking at the victim being strangled by a dressing gown cord by the husband. And then I see visions of him rolling his own auntie up into the rug for money and taking the car and setting a light to it. I'm seeing this flash in front of me like a movie as I'm sitting down. And I'm going, oh my God, oh my God. And every time I look at him, all I can see is the vision. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't say this, because I could lose the whole job by saying something wrong against the regulations. So my heart's going. I want to grab him. I want to say, you killed your aunt, or you were there when she was, couldn't do any of that. And so we had to press the video, and I'm desperately trying to stay on track and ask the proper questions we're supposed to, and I can't. And even like Nick, the partner's with me, is going, you all right? And I'm like, yeah. And thank God this horrible little oit pretended to have a fit. So thank God the interview got suspended. I came out and went, oh my God, I've just seen what happened to Tina. Her husband did it. He's throttled her at lunchtime, and then they've rolled her up and taken her and burnt set light to the car. It's like, oh my God, but how do you prove it? How do you prove it? So a lot of the times we pretend there's anonymous calls to cover my information. But this one, it's a massive murder investigation. How are we going to, get it? How are we going to prove it? In the back of all of this, people are slowly getting evidence to build a picture, which we do very well. And then it goes on, but we still can't get a motive. He's got an alibi, the husband. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, have I just making it up? Have I got it wrong? What the hell? So I tell them in our briefing, he's done it. I just can see it. Some people are going, silly cow. Other people are going, really? So, I had different opinions on my ability in the detective office. Anyway, we then had to go and visit a young girl and her family who were friends of the family, just to see if they'd seen them, if there's anything they could help us in the investigation. Walked in and they're 15. I was talking to the mum and dad, and I think their boy was there or someone was there. And then this young girl, 15-year-old girl, walks down the stairs, and straight away I'm back into visions. Poor Nick's going, oh my God, she's going on weird again. And I can see her making out with the husband, this young schoolgirl. And I'm like, that can't be right. Can't be right. I can see them kissing. I can see them, cuddling, embracing each other. I'm like, oh my God, she's having an affair with him. That's why he's killed his wife, because he wants to be with her. So I can't say any of this. So I come out and he goes, what? I saw your eyes go funny. I saw you, because I glaze off. And he goes, what? And I said, oh my God, she's having an affair with Steve, the husband. I said, I'm telling you, that's why he's done it. That's the motive. We've got to prove it. So he's going, go back to the office. I tell everybody. And then I'm sitting in the canteen of the police station. And then suddenly I know that I have to go to the exhibits room and I have to get a particular notepad out. And I photocopy the whole of the pad like a robot. I know I had to do it. Take it home. I never, all these movies where they show the detectives with all this stuff over the floor. We don't do that. We have a glass of wine and just chill out. But I actually took it home with me. I was obsessed with this notepad, right? So I came out of the office and I said, where is this notepad from? He goes, it's from the husband's van. And I'm like, wow, what have I got this for? So I got the photocopies of it and took it home. And at the time, my partner had children that we had over from time to time. And one of them was a teenager. And I was looking through this notepad. And when it's on the tip of your tongue, but you can't work it out? I'm like, so I said, Chelsea, come over. I said, what's all this? I said, what are all these numbers? She went, duh, it's a snog, marry, or avoid game, right? And she said, if it's secret, you'll find their names on another page. And what they do is they work out the numbers that the letters stand in the alphabet, add them up, take them away, and then it gives you whether you're going to snog, marry, or avoid the person, basically. So it's a love game, right? And I've gone, so when I look, her name and the husband's name is on another page, and she's worked it out, the love game. So I'm like, oh my God, we've got something in black and white that I can put to her. So go back the following day. I've got to go and see. I've got to go and see her. Look, I'm going, it's a love game. It's a love game. I'm thinking she does need Valium as well. And so I've got to go. Please let me go and interview her. So we get round there. She gets in the car, and mum's there and everything. And so I basically said, you, madam, I know you're going to feel guilty about this, but you need to now tell us the truth, because I'm telling you now, I know you're in love with Steve. I know you've been seeing him. I know that you're intimate in your relationships. And I know because you did the love game. I said, and you tell me any different. And I just threw it in her lap in the back of the car. And she just broke down. And she had been having an affair with him. But obviously she was mortified because they were close friends of the family. And also she's very close to Tina, and she said to him, there's no way you can divorce Tina. I can't deal with the guilt of it because she'll still be around. I can't deal with it. So he thought in his head, well, I'll kill Tina so that I can be with her, and then I'll give some of the insurance money to the nephew, and then we can use the rest to run away together. So she gave a full statement to me then and there to say exactly what happened, and that she felt responsible for the death of Tina. And so that was the main thing that convicted him. And wonderfully, an officer had gone round to the nephew's home and fantastically had found a train ticket. And the train ticket was the station that he stopped at. The train station he went to after he set a light to the car. So then we got the CCTV footage of him coming in, obviously with a bit of blackened soot, getting onto the train. So we managed through we need to go in this direction, and a work as an integral detective team, we managed to get him put away for many lives. And it was a fantastic result because we were really struggling. And I remember going back to the crime scene, which was just a burnt out area on this marshland by the sea. And I just stood there and said, I hope I've done justice for you, darling. And I just knew she was there. And she went, yes, thank you. And I knew that her and her spirit family had guided me to getting her justice. And then the worst thing happened is I got retired, medically retired, because I got a really severe back injury, which didn't help. But then that led me to full-time mediumship, and that was my next journey. But sadly, being retired, I then used to have prophecies, dreams of murder victims would still come to me. And it was really surreal phoning my old colleagues up saying, look, I've got this information, but if it went to the wrong person who I didn't know, they'd just put you down as a loon, So, we had some prostitutes being murdered by a serial murder here. And the first victim had come to me 6 weeks before she was even found in a circle. I've actually written that in Rise and Fall, that story. But unfortunately, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the US, I feel that psychics are used more officially and are respected more on police investigations. I don't know why they don't use us. What is the harm that we can do? Because, the times I phone the police stations, like there's a murder and I think, oh my God, or I'll dream of a victim and then they'll be on the television. I'm like, oh my God, I know about this. But you phone up and I'm like, yeah, I'm psychic. And they go, oh God, here we go. I know, because I was the other side of it. So, I used to get all of the more ruder men in the office go, oh, we got another nutter, you have her. And I'm like, well, don't be disrespectful. Oh, whatever. If she knows something, she's obviously involved. And so that's the kind of response you get.
Gosh, Nikki, that's like a primetime TV show series.
I'm actually in talks with someone at the moment, funnily enough, about it. There's so many stories, but that one really made me think, wow, hang on a minute.
Wow.
And, I'd walk into places and I'd be going, hello, I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm a family liaison officer. And then I'm trying not to look because the murder victim's going, hey, I'm here, talk to me. I'm like, oh my God, it's so difficult. It was so difficult. And then some of them, though, because obviously you spent months with them, I'd say, and you got to become kind of friends with them. And I'd say, are you open to spiritual stuff? And they go, well, yeah, well, I wondered how you knew this and knew that. And then I'd say things, I go, oh my God, yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's right. So all I'm doing now, I feel, is an extension of that. But I'm free now to say what I think and feel. And the jury is the public, I suppose, deciding whether they want to take it on board or not. And
without all the rules and regulations around it.
Exactly. No more rules and regs. It's great.
Nikki, where can people learn more about the work that you're doing? Where can they get access to your books, the journal, the course that you have, all of that? Where can people go and learn more about your work?
Oh, thank you. Obviously, the first go-to will be my website. That's got absolutely everything on it. It's Nicky, NICKYALAN. I work in my memory of my dad's name, .co.uk. The website is pretty much got everything on it. However, if you go to my YouTube channel, The Bedroom Guru, that also has got all the links to everything if you want to buy things or, books that are available on Amazon, and luckily I've got them covered worldwide. So I have got I've had many sales in Canada. They loved this one, The Rise and Fall, and then they end up wanting to read this one because they want to know what's happened next, because this was the first book that came out. Emily, myself, and and then I didn't intend it to. This is like the prequel. So if anybody hasn't read them, I say to them, well, read my second book first, because then it'll lead to what happens next. But yeah, amazon.co.uk, amazon.com, and Amazon for Canada. They're worldwide available. Just come say hi on my YouTube channel or TikTok. Come to my website if you want to email me about anything. I will tell you now, though, my email is just through the roof. So you may not get a reply very soon. So really, it's best to just have a look at the shop, come and say hi and comment on my videos on YouTube. That community is beautiful. I found that, you know, I've obviously shared my loss with Mia. I know I keep going on about it, but it's still quite raw. It's only a week and a half ago. And yet I then watched other people comforting other people that are going through loss. And there's a real lovely vibe going on in that community. I call them my tribe. They're just such beautiful people. So if you feel lost or you want to learn things, because you know, it's tutorials, my experiences, guided meditations. I do a few cheeky tarot readings. I do a few spirit readings, and it's just a lovely place to be. So social media, definitely YouTube and TikTok, or just Google Nicky Alan medium, and hopefully everything will come up that what interests you.
Awesome. We will put all of those links in the show notes so people can go check out that work. Yeah, definitely go check out the YouTube channel, and lots of great information on there and lots of support, and just also like a beautiful community. I mean, that's really important right now. It's like be a part of different communities that are uplifting, like we talked about earlier.
Yes,
Nikki,
absolutely right.
thank you so much for your time. That was really wonderful.
No, namaste to you, my darlings. I love your vibration. It's been an absolute honour to come on, and thank you for being so patient when I just talk and talk and talk.
Thank you so much, Nikki.